Before I introduce myself again, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you for attending the CellAgriculture End of the Year Summit and for being here. We're all still new and exploring virtual conferences and events in general and how to make them as engaging and as active as possible. So we really do appreciate that you have joined us for the End of the Year Summit. My name is Ahmed Khan, and I am the founder and editor of CellAgri and the organizer of the End of the Year Summit. As we approach the end of the year, I wanted to share a presentation breaking down the cell agriculture investment landscape, as well as touch on emerging opportunities in the ecosystem for founders and investors as the field further moves forward and grows. But before diving in there, I wanted to share some information about how I first got started in the cell agriculture field and some more information about CellAgri. I first learned about the cell agriculture field a few years ago, and I was blown away by the concept of the field. I wanted to find out as much as I could about the field, the latest news, the updates, company listings, even opportunities to join the field. But I was having a problem at the time. There was no one-stop website or tool that had all the information I was looking for. It was hard to find out what the latest news even was from the field. And that's how CellAgri began, to be the news and market insights platform, focusing on the future of food with cell agriculture. We try to promote all the different players in the field, and we share all our insights with our subscribers. One of our goals is to become a homepage for the field, where people can come to learn anything and everything about cell agriculture, from what it is to who's involved, all the way to the latest market insights and opportunities to join the field. Last year, I published the first Introduction to Cell Agriculture ebook, and the ebook has since been updated. The ebook is an in-depth overview of the field, from what it is and how it works to common misconceptions about the field. And we also list out all the different companies and players in the field. If you're interested in downloading a copy of the ebook, you can visit the CellAgri website at the end of the webinar and the summit to go and get it. Along with those products, one of the projects that CellAgri has been working on is taking a look at the global cell agriculture investment landscape and the technological innovations required to further grow and scale the field, especially when it comes to cell-based meat. And the rest of this presentation, we'll take a look at some of my research there. I don't want to take too long here, but I want to touch on the importance of cell agriculture in creating a sustainable system to produce animal products for our future. Compared to conventional animal agriculture, cell agriculture provides a more sustainable and environmentally friendly way to produce the same animal products we want to meet the growing demand for the future, like meat, dairy, and even leather. Typically, we break down the benefits of cell agriculture into three categories: the environmental sustainability, public health implications, and animal welfare. In light of the devastating impact of COVID-19 around the world, I also want to highlight a fourth benefit of cell agriculture: food security. COVID-19 has really highlighted the needs of resilience in our food supply chains to ensure people do not lack access and availability to their food needs. And CellAg can help address that by being a way to produce food locally anywhere and everywhere on the planet and in outer space. Food security has not really been a topic of conversation in the US or Canada until the pandemic, but food security is actually a major reason why there's an explosion of interest for the field in Asia, particularly in Singapore, Japan, and across the Middle East. Without requiring as many resources like land, countries that rely typically heavily on food imports can now produce enough food for their populations locally. When I first began tracking the field a few years ago, you could literally count the number of players on your fingers. There was a handful of companies that seemed mostly based around the San Francisco Bay Area in California. And today, the field has exploded, and there are players from all over the world working on making our future of food more sustainable with cell agriculture. The pictures here are shown from all product showcases in the last 6 months, some of them as recent as November, from different companies all around the world. And no two pictures here are from companies working on the same product in the same country. From Perfect Day's flora-based dairy proteins, including the first commercial CellAg food product to market, to Shiok Meat's cell-based lobster and shrimp meat, to a cell-based chicken burger by Supermeat at the first cell-based restaurant experience. Companies all around the world are doing fantastic work. The accelerating speed that we're seeing these new product showcases and prototypes highlight the advancements that companies in the field are making. From fish fillet to sushi to a cell-based steak, cell agriculture can truly develop a wide range of products. And while this is great to see, it's important to recognize that these companies and showcases were often a result of the growing number of investments in the field. In spite of the economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic around the world, cell agriculture food landscape pushed through and hit a major milestone. After Cellular announced its massive Series B funding this summer, officially more than $1 billion has now been invested in the cell agriculture companies focusing on the future of food. This is an incredible landmark for the field. With over $1 billion in investments, this milestone highlights cell agriculture's potential to make our food system more sustainable. In spite of the pandemic, more than $600 million, more than $500 million has been invested in the cell agriculture food field this last year. That's more than half of all investments. It's an incredible landmark for the field and promising for what is to come next. As you can see from the graph, there's a steady increase in investments year over year. 2018 showed a major increase of interest in the field, and 2019 was a major breakthrough year for the field with over $400 million in funding across 18 disclosed deals. And 2020 took that to a whole new level. With $605 million in disclosed funding across 21 disclosed deals, the field is continuing to grow and grow. Including Cellular's Series B round over the summer, 4 of the largest funding rounds for cell agriculture food companies took place in 2020. From Memphis Meat's Series B in January to Perfect Day's expanded $300 million Series C round, there will likely be more sizable investments in the field as industry continues to grow and more companies achieve their scaling milestones. In the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is remarkable to see these large funding rounds. While it may be difficult for new startups to raise capital to get started, it looks like investors are continuing to support established cell agriculture companies that have previously raised funding rounds and continue to reach their scaling milestones. Moving forward into 2021, according to our projections, CellAgri projects cell agriculture food companies and players will raise at least $750 million in 2021. Considering the number of companies currently raising their next larger rounds to accelerate their research and development and scale production, we're excited to see how this graph further grows into the new year. I do want to add that this graph does not include each just because it is unclear how much of their funding has gone towards the cell agriculture department. And it was recently updated to include Mosa Meat's expanded Series B round, as well as Remilk's Series A round. This slide breaks down the cell agriculture food investment year over year into acellular foods and cell-based meat companies. While investments in cell-based meat companies have steadily grown year over year, the reality is that their investment sizes are second to acellular food companies that have raised large amounts of capital, like Perfect Day, Motif Foodworks, Cellular, and Clara Foods. In terms of opportunities for founders and investors, larger investments in acellular food companies may reflect a lower perceived risk for entering the market, such as regulatory hurdles, commercialization, and product opportunity. When it comes to regulatory hurdles, earlier this year, Perfect Day announced the company received a letter from the US FDA for no objections for the flora-based protein. By becoming the first company to bring a cell agriculture food to market, Perfect Day highlights there are fewer regulatory hurdles for acellular food companies and provides a clear route to market for other companies in that field. And now, barring 2017, when there were no investments in acellular food companies, 2020 is the first year where cell-based meat companies have raised more funding than acellular food companies. This is exciting because it highlights the promise and potential of cell-based meats that the field has been advocating for years. With more companies achieving their scaling milestones and the historic regulatory approval in Singapore of Eat Just cell-based chicken, it's possible that 2 of the obstacles for investors in cell-based meat, commercialization and regulation, are starting to be addressed. Considering the regulatory breakthrough, as more companies reach their scaling milestones, Will 2021 be another year that cell-based meat investments are higher than acellular food investments? We'll have to wait and see. I also want to highlight the idea that that graph showed the gap between media hype of cell culture meat and the actual investments in that sector as well. As of December 2020, cell-based meat investments now comprise 40% of all investments in cellular agriculture foods. 1 year ago, that was not the case. At the end of 2019, in December 2019, the funding wasn't even close to each other. Cell-based meat investments only made 24% of all total cell agriculture food investments. In a year with historic funding, this really shows how much of the funding this year has gone towards cell-based meat companies. It's also to understand how these investments are being distributed. Approximately 81% of all cell agriculture food investments have gone towards North America, essentially the US. To get more specific, 70%, 70, of all investments have gone to cell agriculture companies in California. In comparison, 11% of investments have gone towards companies in Europe and 8% in Asia, where each just recently got their regulatory approval in Singapore. If the field's goal is to revolutionize and make a sustainable food system globally, there needs to be an increase of funding opportunities to support companies and emerging startups outside of North America, either through public channels or private ones. At the same time, this graph also does show why many emerging startups are looking to set up bases in the US, specifically California, to ensure they have access to those funding channels. We previously heard earlier today from an investor looking to go beyond California to invest in the future of food. If that is a trend moving forward, will we see more sizable investments in Europe and Asia in 2021? With over $1 billion invested, the agriculture field has clearly been validated as a viable future food system. It shows that agriculture is no longer an idea. It can be done, and it can become our future of food. To further advance the field to the next level, there are still plenty of areas that need to be addressed in the field's future supply chain. As you heard from the panel right now, there are plenty of opportunities to address white spaces in the field's developing supply chain. From bioprocessing to product and facility development, there's still plenty of areas in the field that need to be addressed in order to commercialize. And we need more and more players to enter the ecosystem to support it and address those pain points. I also want to touch on the idea of the role that corporates can play in the future of cell agriculture and further growth and form partnerships. As we heard from Andrew's opening keynote, supply chain development is critical for the field's success, and partnerships with established companies in the food, agricultural, and even pharmaceutical industries can help support the field's growth while finding their own footing in the nascent industry. As the years progress, we will see more conventional agriculture, meat, and even biotech players explore how they can apply their expertise into the cell agriculture supply chain. Not only will this help support new cell ag companies, it will make sure that these corporations continue to play a role in the future food supply chains, or even present opportunities for pharmaceutical and biotech players to even enter the future food supply chain. While it is incredible that the cell agriculture field has raised over $1 billion in investments, the reality is that most funding in the alternative protein and future food field has been in the plant-based companies so far. Impossible Foods, for example, has raised over $1.5 billion. That's more than the entire cell agriculture food field. At the same time, with over $500 million invested in 2020 alone, investments are only going to get larger and larger. It's time to discover the cell agriculture landscape and explore opportunities to get involved, whether as a founder, investor, or even a company looking to offer its services to support the field. And in October, we launched our report series to do just that. In October, CellAgri launched the CellAgri Investment Report Series, a series of reports that break down the investment landscape and the key pain points in the field's developing supply chain. CellAgri has been tracking and covering the cell agriculture field since 2017, and the report series is a breakdown of the research and data points I have collected. From breaking down and analyzing how over $1 billion has been invested in the food ecosystem and highlighting opportunities in the field's developing supply chain, the series highlights how everyone can get involved in the future of food. If you would like to sign up for a free preview of the report and see what it would look like, please feel free to scan the QR code in the top right corner Or alternatively, you can visit cell.ag/reports to download your preview of the report series. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen and hear about the opportunities in the cell agriculture ecosystem and its growing investment landscape. As you can see, the field has grown tremendously over the last few years, and it's only going to grow further. Please feel free to email me at ahmed@cell.ag if you're interested in learning more about CellAgri, our report, or any of the resources and services we offer to the ecosystem. Thank you for your time, and thank you for attending once again the Cell Agriculture End of the Year Summit. I'll take any questions we have with our remaining time.